When we first started this challenge, our main goal was to beat Monster Hunter Wilds using only our starting gear. Then we would take all that we learned from this experience and come to a conclusion whether this game is too easy or just the right amount of difficult. We've soared through 18 different monsters to get to this point. And now, the only thing standing between us and victory is Guardian Arkveld. Let's see if we can make that a reality and finally beat the low rank story. We have to start every hunt with some nice, juicy fish.
Well, what can I do for you?
Absolutely nothing. I can't upgrade my gear. And with the first swing of the blade, we start our hunt. Something I learned pretty quickly was you could take these worms banes and shoot them at these crystals to make them explode. And that helped me deal some decent damage to them.
Nice.
This was the first time I almost got one shot. And for the most part, I tried to deal as much damage as I could using these crystals. Sometimes if I can get them to stand still, it'll deal additional hits per crystal. I came to a few close calls, but the run seemed fairly good so far.
Are you sure about that?
And we weren't gonna give up just yet. The run still can be saved. We still have 2 lives left. It's not the end of the world. I was trying to go for the tail for the majority of this fight so that I don't take those stray back shots.
What?
And for the most part, hitting the wounds on the monster was essential for my success. I was barely dealing any damage, so I had to make sure that I was as effective as possible. When I was on the 3rd gauge of the longsword, I had to ensure that I was super aggressive. This is the point where I could deal as much damage as possible while also countering any attacks that come my way. I didn't even realize in the second area you can use these thunderbugs as a shock trap. Eventually we managed to cut his tail off and get him into the 2nd stage. In this phase he learned some long range attacks that could easily one-shot me. I wasn't used to how aggressive he was and he easily took my 2nd life. I was starting to feel nervous because this is my last life and I actually never got this far. We dealt so much damage to him and I knew for a fact that he was almost at 25% health. Here I was trying to hit his open wound so I can hit my 3rd gauge and hopefully get back on the offensive. Fortunately, it did not work out. And with that, we have failed this quest for the 8th time. Now, there are some positives to take from this fight because I haven't actually gotten this far. Let's take what we've learned so far. First off, hitting the crystals is almost a necessity. The damage output far exceeds what I could do with my longsword. Secondly, I should really only be fighting him head on if I have my 3rd gauge. This sets me up with easy to use counters as well as maximum damage potential. And lastly, when he reaches his 2nd stage, I need to be more careful, and that's primarily because he's super aggressive. So let's take what we've learned so far and try again. Round 2, big boy. And right off the bat, we almost died. And then again shortly after. I was playing recklessly because of the frustration from losing the first fight. In general, my strategy to use the crystals was working and I was even able to stagger him. I was trying my best to stay calm and collected to not get too excited, trying to remain focused and anticipating his attacks in order to counter them was part of my plan for the first phase. Now the first phase for me was getting easier because I've done this 8 times already. Whenever I didn't have my 3rd gauge, I was back to shooting crystals. And whenever I got my 3rd gauge, I was back to being aggressive. This strat helped me get far, but sooner or later, I had to verse him at his 2nd stage. Unfortunately, all good runs must come to an end. Although, we were actually doing very well in this hunt. We managed to get very far without dying, and our progress was only getting better. We were making a good stead, and we still had 2 lives left at this point. I was feeling super confident with this run. I knew he was running here to go start his 2nd phase.
I'll accept it. I am you. I'll just kill you.
Now with the 2nd phase, I had to remind myself to switch up my strategy a little bit. His aggressiveness is unpredictable and sometimes he can go for 3 or 4 hits at a time. And finally, with some hard persistence, we were able to cut off his tail. We had a special guest show up to fight our boy, but Dogman stood no chance and just simply ran away. This should have been our second death technically, but I don't know how I didn't get hit. At this point, we never actually got this far. He was moving back to his lair to his final stage. Now is where the hardest part came in. He had his second stage moves within this really small and cramped space. Luckily, because he was so aggressive, he ended up spawning more crystals, which also gave me an advantage. It was at this point that I noticed he was below 25% health. I got a little bit too confident again and started to tunnel vision. I was greedy, trying to go for an open wound, and pinned myself in this weird corner, resulting in my second death. Now, I was nervous. We finally managed to get him under 25% health, and I've never gotten this far. I equipped my mantle to help me heal. I couldn't keep dodging his attacks and relying on his crystals for damage anymore. I had decided to go all in. I had 1 life left, and I needed to succeed. My heart was pounding at this point. I thought I just managed to beat Monster Hunter Wilds with just my starting gear. Until I realized there was one more f***ing monster. Thanks so much broskis for watching the video. I thought this was the last video of the series, but turns out we have to go kill Zoshia. So stay tuned for that video.